it took us about a year until we knew he had cerebral palsy. And by that time, we knew he wasn't developing typically. So it was hard to hear that news. It wasn't really surprising. We knew what was going on. The harder news was actually when we learned he had some type of metabolic disorder, which is a problem processing food inside your body, really in the cell structure. And that was harder news because we didn't know anything about that. And of course, I went right online and Googled, metabolic disorder or mitochondrial disorder, and that's kind of dangerous because it gives you lots of scary things about what that might mean. We still don't have a very specific diagnosis for Samuel. We're still figuring out exactly why he has this disorder that caused cerebral palsy. But, after a while, you just learn to live with the fact that your child has a disability and they can still have a wonderful, full life with a disability. I've said that a few times. No,
Okay.
it's really, I'm joking, but it is very tiring for the immediate family. It can be physically very tiring, to support a child with a disability, especially if you live in an area that isn't very physically accessible. If there aren't a lot of ramps into buildings, if it's difficult to get places with your child, which I understand, maybe parts of Athens are like that. Certainly there are places in the United States like that. There are many schools that don't even have accessibility here. So there are schools within our community here in New Hampshire that Samuel could not have attended because there are too many steps. So I think that our extended family was very supportive all along. But I think unless you're a parent of a child with disability, it's very difficult to know what it's like every day to be that parent. And unless you're a person with a disability, it's very hard to know what it's like to be a person with a disability.
Yes.
So the key for us has been schools that have been welcoming to Samuel, that have been physically accessible, that have believed that all children deserve to learn together in the same classroom alongside each other. And that's been Samuel's experience. He's been completely accepted by our family, by our school, by our community, and because of that, it's made it a lot easier on us in every way. And it's given us every reason in the world to believe he will have a full, happy, exciting, fulfilling life ahead of him.
And to that, can I just add something to that? I think it's what Dan said. I think it's very important to think about the experience that the classmates had with Samuel being included in the classroom, which is usually an argument that we get about inclusion. A lot of parents think that when they have a child with a disability in the classroom, that will care. It will not benefit the rest of the kids, the quote-unquote normal kids. And what we have seen, cases like Samuel or all the kids that have been in good inclusive schools with open-minded teachers, is that the rest of the parents are growing and they're just maturing, getting the perspective that disability is natural and part of the diversity of the classroom, and that's something that it takes a lot of work and a lot of training to get to the adults, but when the kids have it at a young age, that's something that it needs to go out there as a good message when we talk about inclusion. Right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Well, it's the law, so they have no choice of not accepting people with disabilities. Segregated schools, schools that are separate, special schools that we still have in Greece, they are not longer visible, at least in the state that we're in. So it is the law to have for the kids to be included in the school. Of course, that does not mean that everything goes according to the schedule. So the fact that it's the law does not mean that all students are included in the school. They are maintained in the same, what we've seen at least, is they are in the same building, but sometimes they will have separate rooms within the school.
Yes.
Where kids will spend time. They call it the resource rooms, or I don't know how I think special education rooms, where the kids can go there. The argument of having this in place, I think that sometimes students with disabilities will need specialized support, so they will have to be included in those types of resource rooms to get the skills they need, and then go back slowly to the general education classroom. But what we have seen from our experience, it's actually very hard once a kid is getting into that classroom to actually get back to the general education classroom. And that's something that we have in Greece a lot, because we have the inclusion rooms in all of our schools. I think the schools that support inclusion in Greece, and they have kids with disabilities, and we actually see there exactly the same thing. And that has to do with a lot of things. In Greece, I think mainly has to do with lack of training from teachers in feeling comfortable including those kids.
Yes.
In America, it's a combination of things. It's a lack of training. Sometimes it's the fear, and I think most of the time what we see across the board is this difference in philosophy in what it means for students with disabilities to be included in the classroom or not.
Yeah, it's also very important that we talk about the research, all the research in the United States, and I think internationally, but I know the United States research says that children with disabilities are included in general education classrooms, studying the regular curriculum, the regular studies, achieve at much higher rates of success than kids who are in separate environments. And every study that's been done shows that literally for every hour that a child has in regular education increases their academic success. And now there are more and more studies being done showing that all children, even those without disabilities, achieve at better and higher rates when they are in inclusive settings where kids with and without disabilities are studying together. But I think the bigger, or just as big a factor, is that the social and emotional development of kids who are in truly diverse environments around disability is so much more well developed in schools that are inclusive than schools that are segregated. In many schools around the country, in the United States, this is happening. You know, that teachers are very successfully including kids, not just with all different abilities or disabilities, but of all different learning styles. Because you find that it's really not broken down of, oh, I need to teach this kid with autism this way, I need to teach this kid with cerebral palsy this way. It's every kid in the classroom has a different way of learning, you know?
Yes.
And that if teachers learn techniques like we call it differentiated instruction, where they're learning in different ways to reach it. Some kids learn best through hearing material. Some kids learn best through reading it. Some kids learn best through seeing it in multimedia on screen. Some kids learn best by doing it, you know, actively. There are also great models being done right now of co-teaching, collaborative teaching, where you have regular educators and special educators working together in one classroom to teach all kids. You also, in the United States, there's a big movement right now towards universal design for learning, using a lot of technology, smartboard, computers, you know, to make sure you're giving kids lots of different ways to learn the material. So these are things that are being taught more and more at the college level, that teachers need to be prepared for diverse classrooms, not just around disability, but in terms of languages, different learning styles, different home environments, you know, all these things are taken into account, I hope, when teachers are learning to learning the profession.